Today's episode is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. It's crunch time, baby.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, the Blevins. With me, as always, is
Crunch time!
brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. My co-host has turned into a delicious and maybe not so nutritious treat. It's Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
More nutritious than most of the garbage snack food I eat, I'll say that.
That's
But
not
I
really
should've
saying much, though.
I should have zoomed in. Yeah, you're not wrong. I should have zoomed in on these nice faces they have on the back here, though. Yeah, no, we are leaning into the meme this week at the end of week one. Super, super excited to have Overwatch League back.
Yes.
The meme of the season is already here, so we get
Crunch
to just
time!
jump straight into it, absolutely right out of the gate, and beat that dead horse as much as we possibly
Well, we're
can.
certainly going to kill it and hopefully beat it a bunch afterwards, too.
We're trying. We're giving it the old you guys are saying Brigitte's name wrong treatment,
Yeah.
and it's just probably going to be the entire episode.
You boomers think that's too funny. You should stop saying it.
Well, you know what I have to say to that?
Crunch time!
I would say that I'm not going to spam that throughout the rest of the show, but I definitely am going to. So, just be ready for it at any time, especially if it's hilarious and in the middle of a really heated discussion.
Extra meme quality if you're watching on YouTube too. So feel free to stop, go over there, get a little extra.
Yeah,
extra
definitely
meme
go to
quality too.
youtube.com/highnoonpodcast because there is visuals involved in these
Crunch time!
drops. And yes, for once I have the drop working. So let's get through some housekeeping so we can get to some actual matches. The matches have started. Overwatch League is back finally. I'm so happy. And with the return of Overwatch League marks the return of Around the Payload, and you got your opener in. Your first hosting duties are in the books. How did that episode go for you, DB?
It went really, really well. Obviously, we had a great cast. I know we spoiled we gave you guys the list of panelists. One of them did back out. We also talked about how common it is that somebody has to back out and how
It's very
difficult that
common.
makes it. So hopefully you guys are seeing that a little bit. Otherwise, it was honestly really, really good. I had less production issues than the Overwatch League did for their
True.
initial broadcast.
True.
So any complaints, you can just send them directly to @PlayOverwatch on Twitter. But otherwise, I am fully aware that my volume needs to be higher, and I should stop zooming in on Frito's face when Volamel's talking, and vice versa, and things like that. It is very difficult. Blevins put in a ton of work to get the whole process going. Thornrain also helped a lot, finding software that
Yes,
would
he
help
did.
us do what we need to do. I did a decent job because of the work you guys did before me. So big thank you to you guys. Hoping to continue to make improvements to that show as well, get things ironed out, and see what we can do to add little things here or there. So if you have any ideas for ways to spice up Around the Payload, make it a little more fun, if we can technically pull it off, I'm open to trying things, hearing ideas. Let us know. The technical side of it is obviously the big limitation. There's a lot of other things we'd have done with the show, like live viewers voting for who their favorite answers were some things we talked about, tried to make work. It's a little tough, but yeah, we're really happy to have that show back. We know you guys really, really enjoyed it. We're glad to give that back and bring that back for you guys. So book it 2 weeks, not this week, next week. We'll be back doing another episode.
Yes. And by the way, even though I could tell you this offline, hardware acceleration is what you need to turn off to get Discord to work right. So we can get that working even better. Though I did like the the zoom ins on Labasco and Kyle and all of them. It was just maybe a little long, but yeah, I like to say made that bad boy look easy, but I also flubbed.
I was going to say, we were there for your early episodes.
And
We
well, and all the other ones too. But, Foul Play also back, of course. Going to be back to make sense of week 1, and hopefully Teppo is going to apologize to everyone who picked Jerry, who drafted Jerry, because yikers. And by the way, Mr. Logic popped off, so that bet is not looking good for Teppo. And of course, Blackwatch Report is, of course, always going to be coming back with their Tier 2 analysis. And, we're obviously in the beginning of Overwatch League, but hey, mid-season pickups are a thing. Next season is the thing. You want to see where the future of your team is, make sure you're checking it out. The Tier 2 podcast, Blackwatch Report. So, let's talk about... we'll do it. I don't even know what section we want to consider this, but Deathblow, I know we've talked about wanting to do VOD reviews for Overwatch League games, and I know just during the matches we were talking about, hey, we should, I want to do this. And you had some really great ideas for that stuff, and a little bit of unfortunate news on the Overwatch League side there. So you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, essentially, I'm in replay viewer jail at the moment. I really want to be. I would honestly probably already have a video out for you guys. It was just kind of a smaller scope video to get me started. It was going to be just the Toronto dive defense that they did on Horizon Lunar Colony, but I just don't have access to them. And honestly, there's smarter, better players and coaches out there doing long form VOD reviews where they go through them, and it if it's all I can do, I'll do them for you guys, and we'll get them out there. But what I wanted to try to do was really capitalize on the replay viewer, bring a little bit more of a cinematic experience to the content. If I can't give you the highest level of analysis and breakdown, I want to give you value in other ways. So I'm really trying to stick to that as best I can. But again, it's how many days after that Toronto match got played. And so far, the only people that can use them are Overwatch League players. And it's kind of annoying to me that Dogman's out there putting like vulgar audio to it, and I want to make a serious video about it. And I want to be clear. I have no issue with Dogman putting vulgar audio to Overwatch clips and using them, but like that's the exclusive use of the content at the moment is crazy to me. I don't know, do we have the shame bell ready to go? Because I want to give one of them to Blizzard real fast for not having those games up.
Shame.
There you go.
Really frustrating. Like, if we wonder why YouTube content struggles in Overwatch League and why there's not the extra analytical shoulder content, to me, this is why. I have so much hype following the weekend. I would have been working on it while I was watching Sunday, and I was pumped, and the viewers were pumped, and people were really excited for it. And by the time they unlock tomorrow, Wednesday, my hype's going to be less than. I have just less time physically to work on them. I've done what I can. There's a thumbnail ready to go. I've done everything I can without the footage itself. I've got the actual match footage to use to splice in, grab some of the audio from, things like that. I'm ready to go, and I'm stuck. I can't do anything. So I'm trying. I'm going to work on them. It's the first week, maybe they're planning on getting them out faster, but for whatever reason they didn't this time. I don't know. We're just going to have to take it as it goes. I'm going to do what I can. I do have some plans later in the week, unfortunately, but I'm going to really try to get that video out. And if nothing else, I'll just do it to get the practice in and get something out there. And because I really will need to work a lot on my process just to be time efficient in creating the videos and getting them out there. So I'm not going to stay idle with it, but that's why you already haven't seen a video from me, to be perfectly honest with you about that. It's just I want the replay viewers to really add something to them other than what already exists, and probably a better form. It's just not available to me. So keeping an eye out for that. And I guess we can just add that to the list of things we beg of Blizzard when we get the opportunity to get the ear of somebody.
Blizzard, let's give us the tools to create content for the game.
I can name 4 or 5 other people. I don't know what they wanted to do them for, use them for, but even if it's just watching them to analyze on the show,
Right.
it would be great. I'd be able to give you much better recaps of what was going on if I was able to go in and slow-mo watch things. And it's just frustrating because it's out there. It's literally to
Right.
the point where all they need to do is flip a switch.
not
If
even
the
a
Overwatch
logistical
League
thing,
players
yeah.
didn't have it, I go, well, they need to get it in there, maybe,
Right.
whatever. But some people have them, other people don't, and that's, to me, the frustration.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. Release them, give them to us. Give them to actually just give them just to us.
That's ideal for me.
Yeah.
But not for Overwatch League or anybody
Just
else.
put them out.
So
I don't
just open them up.
I don't know why we wouldn't have them. I'm gonna withhold further scrutiny until we see if this is a pattern or if this is just a oversight. Or I mean, we
To
look
be
at
fair, it was probably this way last week, and I just wasn't trying to make time sensitive videos and you know what I mean,
Right.
things like that to really notice it. So that information's probably already out there. But regardless, yeah, I don't know. It's not a major issue until it's an every week thing where we're not getting them till Wednesday to me.
right. I mean, it's just not an interesting feature at that point, right? Because it's
Right.
like you're what 3 days, 4 days past when the matches were played potentially, and you're 2 days away, or you're like literally right in the middle of the last matches being played and the new matches being played. So you're at exactly irrelevant for both of them. Like, we're not in the business. Our show is about the matches that are coming up and talking about the matches that happened last week a little bit, not heavily analyzing the match. I mean, I guess we'll see, but it's the type of thing where it's extremely time sensitive, especially in the case of like relevancy for the videos. And again, like this isn't our job, but like, what if it is? And a lot of people that we know it is. So again, they don't have to do anything, but then why did they even put it out in the first place? And like,
Right.
hype
All
it
that
up as
work
anything?
the devs did to make it and make
Right.
it available and,
Right.
and like let us use it. Please
Right.
and thank you.
Yeah. And I agree. The biggest thing is like it exists. Just flip the switch, please. But again, I'm withholding further judgment and scrutiny. If this is the same next week, we'll bring down the hammer. But let's move on here. And even though we have a lot to talk about in terms of the games, we have a little bit of news. Did not think that we were going to get any news this week, additional news besides the matches themselves, but we have the official launch of the beta version of Stats Lab from Overwatch League officially. Deathblow, I saw a little bit of some of the screens, but I did not dig too deep into it. What are your initial impressions of the Stats Lab?
About time. This is what we wanted, basically.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's other stats and things that they're recording and tracking on the back end that aren't included here, but this is a very comprehensive tool that really lets you focus and sort through a good chunk of the data, right? And the beta part of it is making sure it's stable, making sure it works. And to be honest, on the first day I had problems, things wouldn't load. And so I'm expecting functionality to be added to it regularly, but this is the base skeleton exactly what we wanted, with the only caveat being that the stats are only made available to the janitorial staff at the team venue until 30 seconds prior to the following week's games. I'm joking, obviously, but we don't have them yet and can't actually use them. So it's another one of those things. Now, this is brand new. This is clearly in beta.
Right.
And so this is a different conversation. I'm just, I don't know, piling on, I guess, and choosing
to
take another jab here.
And why not?
But it's, I'm just hoping this isn't another thing that systematically like comes out too late for us to use it and talk about it on the show. And it'll be less of an issue if that's the case later in the season, because you're talking about missing one matches games, and we can talk about it, average per 10-minute numbers from this month to last month, or we can really start to use some of those things anyways. But man, would I love to tell you who had the most eliminations per 10 this week, and really highlight some of those stats. So I'm hoping they continue to expand on it and continue to improve on it. But man, as somebody that really wanted this and was banging on this drum for a long time waiting for it, no complaints for what the functionality is and what's here, because it's really, really good, really quality stuff. Captain Planet, has been on the show before, a friend of ours. I say that in the sense that he's been on the show before, and that's the end of the,
Friend of the show.
actual
Friend of the show.
yeah, friend of the show, Captain Planet. You know, he did a ton of work, obviously, to get this up and running as their stats guy. They're even tracking flooded deadlifts, which is like the made up goofy from contenders,
Good,
you know,
honestly.
stat category. But yeah, it's awesome, right? Like if the community liked that and wanted that and embraced that, why wouldn't you do that? And so I love that they're doing that sort of thing. So these stats are a big win for fans, casual, serious content creators, everybody. Even if you don't want to use these yourself to find numbers and stats, like it's going to be valuable for you because these numbers are going to be added into what you're already looking at and viewing already.
Yeah, I mean, give me give me stats. Give me there's an unofficial crunch time. Give me stats. Give me.
It's my punctuation this episode. You can.
Yeah. I'm punctuating a lot of sentences because I just want to eat more cheese and screws. Like you said, this is what we've been asking for a long time. I'm super glad that we have this, and I'm hoping that they increase the functionality. I'm just wondering, is this going to be a view-only sort of list? Now, obviously, we can't input data onto it, but I'm talking about like, are we going to get access? And by we, I mean the greater community and people who can actually.
Everything is downloadable to CSV file. They want you to get the numbers, to work with them, to analyze them, however you plug them in elsewhere. When I say they gave us everything you can reasonably ask for, I mean it. I didn't find any way that it was lacking, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, that's
Nothing
awesome.
I wanted to find, I couldn't find.
One thing I want to see,
except for specific stats to make players look bad that I don't like.
Right, and also, you know, the one thing we didn't find was the stats themselves for this week, but got there. I want someone to use these to make a MLB Showdown-esque card game like they did in the early 2000s with Major League Baseball, Wizards of the Coast. It's not going to happen. Also would be stupid. But a game based on an esport that's based on a game. That's I think that might be too many levels of Inception. But
as long as the name of the game is Crunch Time, I'm playing.
Yeah, I mean, I still want it, but it's probably a little, probably a few too many levels of Inception there. But I mean, kudos to Overwatch League again. Like, I'm going to withhold further judgment or criticism until we actually get on the standard cadence, and also until it's out of beta, right? I mean, it's in beta for a reason. It's going to be tested. There's going to be bugs. If there wasn't bugs and whatnot, then you start asking, well, why didn't you release this last year? Something like that, you know? It's unlikely that they got it all right on the first try. So and the last thing I want to see is, like, I want to see someone come up with, like, what is the slugging percentage of Overwatch League? Where it's like, if you ask someone, like, if you ask a normal person, what is slugging percentage? They'd go, in baseball, I don't even know. It's something to do with like, it's something to do with like the ratio of like multi-base hits versus at bats, something like that.
Sure, we've got QB rating in the NFL. They've got Corsi stats in the NHL.
I don't know what any of those things are. I want to know what that is, because like, yes, we can get, you know, kills per 10 and all these like basic stats, but I want like the like next level, the like inside Overwatch League stat where it's like, well, the kills per 10 is a decent indicator, but actually, if you look at this stat, Bianca blows everyone in the league out of the water, and that's why they're winning. It's like that little, like, not super noticeable on paper, but when you have that, it's like, and you uncover it and you look back, it's like, holy crap, that's insane. I want that to, you know, let's get the stats gurus on it, and
somebody will absolutely develop a mathematical equation that does a good job of ranking players, and eventually it will become generally agreed upon. It's like, that's just the way it's going to go. And getting these stats out there is key to getting that started, right? Like, we needed to get that process going. So.
And to tie it back to the Around the Payload episode, much like the monkeys getting soaked by water trying to grab the bananas on the ladder, none of us will have any idea why we're accepting this stat in the first place.
Okay, I still don't understand it.
I do. If you want, I can explain it right now on the show.
No, we'll leave afterwards. But like, just explaining it again makes me forget it and not able to understand it.
The only reason I know is because I'd learned about it in school, and probably the same reason Kyle knew about it. But let's move on here, and we finally get to press this button again for the first time of the season, and after such a long time.
It's tournament talk.
And maybe this season is different because I did not mess up any drops there. I have not messed up a single drop yet, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, it's because
Crunch time.
yes, we get to talk about some tournaments. Okay, I'm messing up everything else on my screen right now. We get to talk about some games that were played. Let's start off with the New York homestand, and we'll kind of go through these similarly to last week, where we'll talk homestand to homestand. Can't talk. I get the drops right, but I can't speak physically. We started off the Overwatch League season with our personal hometown heroes up just a little bit north on the QEW, the Toronto Defiant taking down the Paris Eternal 3-1. NYXL playing as the very first home team of the season, defending their turf 3-1 versus the London Spitfire. The Paris Eternal showing up in spades against the London Spitfire, winning 3-0, and then NYXL just absolutely demolishing Boston 3-0. Death. Our very first homestand, our very first week of Overwatch League here. What were your takeaways from the New York Excelsior homestand?
Well, first thing, I mean, we'll start kind of one of the smaller things, I think, honestly, was looking at the London Spitfire. I thought particularly Bernard was as an absolute standout and bright spot for London, and what was otherwise a pretty rough weekend for them. People were talking like they looked pretty solid against New York, and then they come out with the 0-3 against Paris, and Paris was in kind of a rough state this weekend, which is funny considering what one of my later talking points are here. They were like, they didn't have an off-tank player. Smex couldn't get with the team for the weekend, or doesn't have a visa, or what happened there, we don't really know, but they were forced to basically just roll out both of their main tank players, and absolutely had to play double shield. We didn't see Cruz at all. FD God was in on the Lucio. And when I saw that lineup, I buried Paris on the weekend, right? They came out, they rolled it out the whole weekend. They didn't really seem to have a choice. So against Toronto as well, when they lost. But even against Toronto, they looked really good. And that'll just bring me right into the other talking point, was that Paris kind of put the league on alert in my mind. Not a team that was on my radar as leveling up that much. But given the weaknesses that they had in being forced to play double shield every single map, and not having their second DPS player and their off tank due to age restrictions, was crazy how good they played. XZ was nuts. He was an absolute animal on the Symmetra, on the McCree. I mean, it just didn't seem to matter. Those are two such drastically different heroes that it's crazy that the man's out there putting out such a great performance on both of them. So a player we absolutely have to keep our eye on, a player fantasy players should be all over as well. And, just basically, announced his presence in the league with his performance this weekend. I thought, even though it was a 1-1, those issues for the Paris Eternal aren't disappearing right away by any stretch. They're going to continue. But I think once they get Hanben and are able to play a serious, honest-to-God composition with a main tank and an off-tank and go into the Rhine Diva, like the meta is, I think, proving that it should probably be, or at least most of the teams got to that conclusion. I think they're going to instantly become a viable mid-table team. And then once Sparkle gets here, bets are off, right? Like, Xy's not even the one we were being sold on all season. It was Sparkle due to the reputation and everything like that from contenders. And so that the lesser of the two in the duo comes in and pops off so hard, I think is a really, really good indicator for Paris fans. And thank God, since we're not fans of the Paris Eternal, that Sparkle comes in so late, because I think once he does get here, that team's instantly terrifying. They'll have the firepower to beat anybody. There'll be some rough edges. I'm not saying they're going to be, you know, at the absolute elite top of the league.
Right.
But when you look at teams that, you know, manage to punch above their weight class a little bit and take out wins that maybe you don't expect, I think at bare minimum, you have to start to think of Paris as a shoo-in for that. Once they're fully unlocked, have all their players, and who knows, they might address some of their lesser concerns through free agency in the offseason. They don't have to earn in the middle of the season, I should say. They don't have to just stand pat on what they have, and I think what they have is much better than what we thought they had. So they're in a really, really interesting spot. And FD God, I can't say it enough. The man was an animal versus London. Honestly, carried points, maps for them, put the team on his back. And this is a player that to me was like a French Chipsa signing. Like, oh, we just got this guy because he's French and he's here, and we want to have that on our team, but we're not going to bench Cruz. And I thought it was insane. I was so ready to get on my soapbox and yell, "Where is Cruz? We waited for him for so." But I'm sorry, Cruz. But like, that performance speaks for itself, and I'm led to understand he hasn't even been with the team super long. It hasn't been like scrimming with them like crazy. He was one of the late additions. So on short notice to put out a performance like that, he is here, right? He's announced his presence, and now we're all gonna just have to see. He's an early candidate for like this season's Massa to me, just a main support player that just captivates my attention and makes me want to watch him.
Yeah, I mean, Paris really, I think, definitely overperformed for what we thought. Yeah, obviously they came out and won the first game against Toronto, which of course was super scary for me, and I'm sure you as well, Death, just being like, oh no.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't want it to start. It was one of those things where I really did think the teams were kind of in similar boats. They both played really well, though. Yeah, it was not the first map result you wanted to see as a Toronto fan. That's for sure.
Well, and I think we saw even with New York, who was the home team, was intimidated by that crowd. Like they said it in interviews. That crowd was not like the Blizzard Arena. It was a very different experience. I mean, this is exactly what we were talking about from the beginning. There's going to be home team advantage. There's going to be away there's going to be away disadvantage, or rather, playing against the home team disadvantage. I mean, and I guess this kind of goes off of the game specifically, but Death, we got to finally see one of our main theses come to realization and actually play out when we saw the Boston Uprising and the London Spitfire both get booed, right? I mean, not off the stage, but booed intensely by that New York crowd coming out. I mean, that was just, it literally brought a tear to my eye, just being like, because I was a little bit worried that, I mean, I wasn't really that worried at either of these homestands, but it could have been just like, you know, a small group of people booing and like the rest of the crowd just kind of being awkward, because that's even worse, right? If no one's booing, it's like, okay, that's just not the atmosphere of the crowd, right? It's just, you know, maybe they're doing other things.
Cancel the beginning half of the episode. Apparently the replays just hit the viewer. That's what chat's telling me, at least anyways. So I take back any and all complaints. But in all seriousness,
do you though?
No, I don't. Get them up the next day. Like I get
say,
if you want to like, leave them a day or wait a day. I get that. But yeah, I should have been able to watch Saturday's games on Sunday and there, things like that. So, but regardless, in fairness, if we're going to call them out for it, we'll give them the credit. Very fast turnaround on our complaint. So thank you for that.
They're listening right now. I'm like, okay, we'll put them up, guys.
Right. Shout outs to Mark, who's probably the one listening.
Yeah. Yes. Turns out Jay Lee was just a.
he's the mole. Also, other side note, as people have already noticed, apparently there's an echo involved, and I'm guessing it has to do with your echoey crunch time drop. And it's making our voices echo, so we're gonna have to maybe. But they're gonna let us know in chat if it happens again. So don't hit the drop, and if it doesn't happen again, we're blaming the drop.
Okay. We'll just.
I don't know
deal
how
with
that
it.
works, but yeah.
My guess is that the drop just goes longer than they're expecting, and they think that we're echoing.
Maybe.
When doesn't matter. It's not
Yeah.
interesting podcast content. We'll deal
we'll
with
figure
it.
it out.
We'll deal with it when it happens. But I was just glad that the boos were so strong that they had to. You could tell they cut out the crowd sound when they were like announcing the team, like when they brought out the away teams.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, I don't want them to do that either. But like I'm glad that they that the boos were so strong, and like you can also tell that those players were prepped for it. Like either they intuitively knew it, or the coaching staff was like, "Hey guys, so I know it's been pretty, everyone loves the Overwatch League and we're all here for Overwatch, but you're going to get booed, and you're going to get booed hard here. So just be ready for it." And like, this is why a lot of the like,
Oh, well, we should be promoting positivity and not toxicity in the community.
we should be empowering each other. Why I think that's such a dumb argument is that you can see when the San Francisco shot came out in Dallas, they're all doing like the Hulk Hogan, like, we can't hear you, like, bring it on, like they're calling it on. That's the pushback. It's not like,
Oh, we got booed. They hate us.
and then they crumble. It's like, I have perhaps personally caused a career game for a college basketball player by being a annoying fan in the crowd, because I was calling them out very loudly and obnoxiously in the first half of the game. They pointed me out in the crowd and then put up 40 points in the second half against us and won. So like it goes both ways. And again, it all goes back to the thesis of, I think a lot of people that are complaining about these types of things never experienced any of it. I've been on, in situations where like we have a hostile crowd. They're not cheering for us. In high school sports, they kind of don't let you boo terribly. They kind of pull the reins in a little bit in high school sports, but like, depending on the school, like those crowds can be pretty hostile. And it's not like, you're sitting on the bench crying because the fans are booing you, or, they're not on your side. It's like you embrace it, or you drown it out, or something like it, and it helps you either as a person or
in
in
high
the
school.
game.
I got booed by my own team's fans because we were terrible.
Well,
But we deserved it. And
we were pretty good.
It's not. It's a silly argument because it's just not hate based. It's all in fun.
Right.
Everybody's an adult.
Yeah.
They literally have to be 18 to join the
before?
league. It's okay not to look at Blevins. Every time you queue up for a video game, if I'm watching, I'm like rooting against you, and I'm like
It's
jeering
true.
you.
I
the
know,
entire
because I get a
time.
Discord message every time I queue up for the game.
I hope you lose.
It's weird.
I'm trying to pass you an SR. Stop playing.
No, me stopping playing is actually helping you. Or is not helping you, is helping me.
That's fair. Depends on the game, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it can be in fun, and it can be like a love hate, a love to hate kind of a thing, and that's what it is. There's no deep seated heated rivalries filled with hatred yet. We're not there yet. We'll get there. I believe in us.
Yeah,
but they don't exist yet. So there's absolutely nothing to admit.
Yeah. I mean,
including the tactical crouching.
I was gonna bring us there.
Yeah.
My only question for the person that is like against the tactical crouch is like, have you ever had fun before in your life? Like, have you ever taunted someone? I don't know. It's
that guy's in bronze because he just stands there and gets shot in the head by every Widowmaker. If he would just move evasively and crouch randomly,
right,
it would be in an evasive posture and he would succeed more. That's the way you. To be honest, acting like it's not teabagging and is actually tactical crouching is to me the only way to respond.
That's true. That is actually much funnier.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, it literally is a competitive advantage to tactical crouch on your enemy. So shut up, idiot.
I don't know what the Widow is.
True, especially since Widow's in the meta now. But One thing that was interesting for me for these matches was we saw the DPS lineup for NYXL sort of solidify a little bit. We saw a little bit of SBB. We saw a little bit of NNA. Didn't see a lot of Libero, which I
don't
thought
think
was
any.
quite possibly the most interesting thing, but not necessarily. I mean, it worked out for us in the end. It's just so weird to think that, like, a world where you have Libero on your team and he's not playing.
Yeah, it's so hard to bench that man with just how wide his hero pool is and,
Right.
and how overall solid of a player he is as well. But like I said last week, it's hard for me to imagine a team goes out there and signs somebody like Who Are You
Yeah,
just to bench him for a
who
while,
also
right?
was
Like
quite good.
he was solid. I think he's got a lot of improvement that he
Mhm.
can make. He's got
Mhm.
some progress there that he can do. It wasn't a perfect week for
No.
him, but it's a rookie coming in, a rookie who
Right.
hadn't even played regularly in contenders due to meta or what I don't know the exact reason for him, but it's been a minute for this guy, right? And it was just great to see him jump right in, start to contribute right away, and they didn't take him out. So that to me tells me that he's who they would like to start.
Mhm.
So I think it's going to be his job until there's a reason and they're kind of forced off of that stance.
Right.
So you can probably drop Libero in fantasy. But yeah, it was a crazy weekend. I'm very curious on your thoughts. We saw kind of the split SBB and Nene, right?
Mhm.
Where are you leaning? What do you want to see? Because both had seriously good moments this
Yeah.
weekend.
I want NYXL to play the player that they believe as an organization will
What a
win.
coward!
Will win. I want them to win. I don't care who it is. I have no, like, I mean, let me tell you though, the SBB chants are some of the hypest points of the entire weekend for me. The SBB chance when he would pop off is just it's just so much more. But like, if SBB is better than Nene or Nene is better than SBB, just let me get the best player. I don't care enough about, like, I don't have an opinion on which one of them is better over the other.
If I could, I would walk through that door behind you, take your Cheez-It grooves off of the table, hit you over the nose with a rolled up newspaper, and call it a day.
I mean, what would you say if you were in my seat?
SBB.
Why is that?
I just think the team looks crisper. They look better when he's out there. I thought game one for them was hype, right? It was great. You had hot bombs throwing diva alts all over the place. It was super PogChamp crazy. Everybody had a good time with it. They also played, in my opinion, really sloppy. And like I said earlier, I really want to get into this with maybe it was pre-show. I really want to get into this a little bit more, verify my opinion, but and I'll do that with the replay viewer. And if I have time, you'll see a video about it. But I really think, we just had basically Hotba out there playing flank angles and off on the side and doing a Harblue impression for the majority of that match. And that's fine and that works when you're hitting 3, 4, 5K diva bombs, right? When your team falls behind and you lose a couple players. But I don't think you can rely on that to happen every single game. And it just seemed to me like they had a more at least a safer tank line presence, and maybe that didn't have anything to do with SBB. I don't really know. Small sample size. I expect them to keep some sort of rotation between these two, if I'm being honest. But they both play the Tracer. They both play the McCree. And I do think SBB's the better Tracer and Nene's the better McCree. So maybe they let percentage of what they want to use the heroes dictate things. But to me, if it's not like 80% McCree, I want the player that is a leader, that is, does change the way, the discipline with which my team plays, right? Like the best players make other people around you better. And it might have been a complete circumstance, and it might have just been completely on Hotba with the nerves where you just got caught out, but made the play anyways. Who knows? But judging by what I have to go off of, they looked better and cleaner with SBB in the lineup. Nene did came in, and that carried over as well while he was out there. So that's a kind of a strike against my argument. But you could also argue that like SBB came out there, set the tone, had the other 5 people on the stage in the correct mindset that they weren't in, you know, in other games without him there. I really don't. It's a very, very difficult question to answer, but with the small sample size we have to work with and go off of and judge from, to me, they're a better team when SBB is on the stage. So I would go with him.
I think that's true for this weekend specifically. I think SBB probably should have been in. I mean, they wanted to get the guy. They wanted to get, you know, at least Nene some time on stage. So I like this. I like the early. I mean, I want that right now. I want them to play around with it. What is actually working? I would like them to get into. Well, the thing is, you can't even, you know, get into a groove with it, but you definitely can get into a Cheez-Its grooves.
Crunch time!
Nope, that's not the right thing. We completely ruined. There we go. Crunch time literally did ruin us. So, yeah, I don't want them to necessarily be, you know, Soul from last season because that's bad. But if they're still sort of testing it out, is SBB better? I mean, maybe it is just a map to map thing. I do agree that SBB definitely had a calming force and was more of a. He popped off more too than I remember Nene popping off. The crowd pops off with SBB more. He is more of a presence, and like we know from playing Magic and other sports that like what's actually happening in the game is only so important, but the opponent you're playing against is also hugely important, and especially as these seasons go on, as more rookies come in, they're gonna see. We're gonna start seeing players who have been watching SBB for 3 years now and have looked up to him. And when you're playing against him, that's an intimidation factor. That is definitely not the case with Nene. But I also think that at the end of the day, if Nene is a better player, I want him in. But I do think that at least right now, SBB does have more intangibles associated with him than Nene does. And I really liked Who Are You? And also, I like Libero still being here because when new meta happens, you've got that, like, you got the Band-Aid to slap on it. You got the Band-Aid to slap on it. Libero is probably going to be playing, if I had to pick any player to play random heroes with very limited information on the meta, it's going to be Libero versus almost any other player in the league. So I'm really glad he might just be there as that player. He might be the perfect player for hero pools.
And he might be even like a counter, right? Like if one team is really well known, bouncing everywhere and making you switch to counter whatever weird stuff they're doing that day, maybe you go with Libero because he's got it in him, whatever you need to counter. But if you think you're better than somebody and you know what you would ideally want to play, and you've got two guys, you know, if Who Are You and Nene or Who Are SBB are just better at it, at those heroes, then you're not going to use them. So New York DPS, we talk about how dangerous it is that they have a lot. It's a great problem to have as long as you handle it correctly, right? So
don't pull the soul.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a negative. It can be. But I do think at the same time we should, just because Soul did it, right? It doesn't mean we need to start thinking about it like it is.
Right.
Because there's almost more examples now of teams doing it well. New York to an extent, maybe not last year so much. San Francisco, we'll talk about them in a minute, what they did with their DPS players this weekend, stuff like that.
Yeah. Anything else from the NYXL homestand that you want to touch on before we move to the Dallas?
No, that's it. We'll save Toronto for a weekday. I don't know, get a little more. That was a weird match, a great match, but like I didn't get a ton of takeaways from it. So yeah, we'll save them for another time.
Okay, well, moving on to the Dallas Fuel homestand at the Arlington Esports Stadium. Started off their games with the Vancouver Titans winning a nail-biter versus the Los Angeles Gladiators 3-2. LA Valiant upsetting the Dallas Fuel at home 3-1. Then the Vancouver Titans beating the LA Valiant 3-0. And the San Francisco Shock not upsetting, but still beating the Dallas Fuel at home. Is this... No, I think Valiant lost both of their homestand games
they did
last year, so this isn't the first complete dumpster fire. Predicted it, by the way. Dallas Fuel, homestand performance here, but Dallas did not perform up to expectation, or maybe LA Valiant performed way above expectation. What was your takeaway from that match?
Can be a little both, to be honest here. You heard a lot of the Scrimbucks talk about the Valiant, and I think all things considered, they showed why some of that info came out, right? There was definitely some high mechanical skill pop-offs going on that, that were certainly taking place. KSP showed what the hype came in for. There's a lot wrong with the LA Valiant too, right? They looked like they had a lot of work to do from a team synergy standpoint, just teamwork, getting everybody on the same page. So I think there's a lot of progress to be made there. Also, my biggest issue going into it with the roster was that the main tank position seemed a little on the weaker side. And so far that's kind of carried through. Now, small sample size, 2 games, but if you're not looking great in a win versus the Fuel, to me, that's more telling than like I looked bad going against Fissure and the Vancouver Titans when we got rolled. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And obviously, I mean, it's a rookie. He's not done because his first weekend was a little rough.
Right.
Gig still got a chance to make some improvements, work with the coaching staff. So honestly, I felt like everybody was a little justified coming out of that one about the Valiant, right? Like, their question marks, their issues, their roster construction problems aren't fixed because KSP is better than we thought going into it, right? And they're not going to be just a dumpster team if they've got the mechanical talent to just stand on their heads and beat people sometimes. Right. So to me, everybody was right, everybody was wrong. They're probably somewhere in the middle of what the optimists and the haters said, which would put them like, right now, I'd put them bottom of the play-ins to like top of the not in the play, like somewhere on that border of actually being relevant or not. And we'll see. It's going to be about progression for them. If what they gave us this weekend is all they've got, obviously, if that's probably true for any of these teams, they're doomed. So we just kind of go from there. It was a promising beginning. If you're a Valiant fan and you were sick of seeing the power rankings and in the dead last all off season, this is a big moment. It's vindication. But I saw a lot of like we won the Super Bowl tweets coming from Valiant fans on Twitter and stuff. And you don't get there just by beating Dallas. You got a lot of work to do. But instead of maybe looking like a budget discount roster that everybody was kind of mad at them for building, maybe there are pieces here and it's something to really cling to and grasp onto as a fan. And that's important and very big, I think, for the franchise.
Honestly, that's kind of a fun place to be as a fan.
It is.
It kind of feels like what the Bills are right now. It's like we put a run together. We've got a really interesting and high talent ceiling quarterback right now. He has pop-off moments. He's really, really strong. Plays a little undisciplined at times. But, like, the team synergy thing, those are, like, I would much rather be in a place where I have, like, uncapped potential in terms of player skill and low team synergy right now, because every game you play in the season and playing throughout the season and being together for so long is going to just inherently get that. You're not necessarily going to get better at clicking heads throughout the progression of the season. That's not really what you're going to be able to spend a lot of your time doing. I mean, maybe they are. Obviously, they're doing scrims and whatnot, but like
it's the less realistic thing to expect improvement on, right?
Yes.
These guys got here because they had that.
Right.
Now they need the rest of it. That's part of why we're so questionable on call-ups from contenders and things like that. And one thing I'm learning as we're going into season 3 and watching these guys is I think we can reasonably say it's a safer bet that contenders' DPS call-ups are going to pop off because they showed the ability to click head and make ridiculous flicks there. It's the same mouse movements. They're physically capable of doing that.
Right.
And it's easier to get your value, right? Like you can have... Sorry, Cheez-Its caught in my throat. The groove is trying to kill me.
Crunch time!
Perfect cover. Yeah, you can be in bad position, and as long as you kill everybody and don't get punished for it, it's fine.
Right.
Look at Pine's career, right, with NYXL in season 1. He made a living doing that.
True.
So it becomes harder for guys like Gig and guys in the tank position that the mechanics of the hero isn't what make them stand out. It's the decision making, the positioning,
so much of the synergy too.
The other things. Yeah, the team synergy. That's all much harder. So, and in that vein, well, we started this talking about Dallas and the unhappy fan base with the 0-2 start. Even Dallas is in a very similar situation to me with Valiant. What have I been talking about all season? How are they going to use their DPS core? Are they going to be able to get the kind of performance they need from these guys in order to do it? We didn't see it last year from Decay, and in his defense, he was stuck in Zarya jail all season long, right? It was very difficult for any of those guys to stand out and prove, get their money's worth or give their money's worth back from their contract to the teams. But Decay and Doha were really, really good this weekend. I mean, really standout performers on a team that had some struggles, and I think just made some bad comp decisions. They were too reliant on double shield. That's last meta, guys. Move forward. Look past that. You don't need to rely on that. You had Note. You could have just played Diva, and instead they had Trill out there who had some big plays, had some massive whiffs with the shatters as well. I mean, it was very up and down for him. They even had Note on Reinhardt. So even they put Note out sometimes, and then he's playing the wrong hero and not playing what he's good at. When what he's good at is good in the meta, you should let your stars and your players play what they're best at, especially when it's almost detrimental to you not to in a vacuum, right? Without taking their talent into consideration. So some things to clean up. Dallas, we were worried about two things: the DPS, the coaching staff. The DPS seems better, so maybe something to keep an eye out there. Coaching, though, still a little, maybe a little iffy, and needs some work. But they can still get there. They can get to the right answers quick. They're far from the only team to have made questionable substitutions or comp decisions in week one. I happen to root for a team that seems to make a habit of doing it. More on that soon.
True. Two completely unimportant things about Valiant that I wanted to bring up because that's what I do. I will say, after seeing them for the weekend, I am retroactively, I don't even remember what I said about that. I'm retroactively giving them 2 thumbs up on the new jerseys. I like them a lot better. The color scheme in my mind is much better than the John Deere. So thumbs up to them for that. And also, KSP and KSF being on the same team and out at the same time is giving me IDDQD, the player, not the team, vibes of like caster confusion.
McGravy's going to become KSM too. I think that was his own meme from Twitter or something. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's a nightmare. But grats on that, I guess, Valiant. You got there.
You got there on full meme.
It's not a negative for me. It's just a little confusing. So hey, if people are digging it, then I'm all for it.
Really, the casters are the ones to be the most mad about it, but they embraced it on the stream.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be tough for them for sure. But yeah, and my only other comment is, of course, you would bring up jersey color after week 1 matches.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I?
You're a fashionista.
Yes, I am. Good stuff. Oh, this is actually, it's not related to the matches specifically, but it is related to the league overall. I will say that the switch from Twitch to YouTube had almost no impact on me whatsoever. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I'm watching it all on Juked anyway, so it looks exactly the same to me. I just don't see Twitch emotes in chat, which I don't look at anyway during Overwatch League games because it's useless. The only time I look at Twitch chat during Overwatch League games is when a C9 happens, because I just love seeing C9 lol spammed. It still brings joy to me every time, but like I don't care about anything else that's happening in Twitch chat. It's just useless. It's just garbage. Doesn't matter. Like, I don't care about the chat at all while I'm watching something big like Overwatch League.
I want to comment on that too real fast. I just want to say the last talking point I had for the Dallas homestand was obviously San Francisco benching Violet for Architect. We questioned how are they going to possibly use Striker, Architect, Sinatra, everybody, all that DPS firepower on the lineup, just make one of them a flex support forehead. They really avoided putting Violet on Iana last season, and I completely forgot about that, to be perfectly honest, going into it. So maybe it should have been something we could have seen coming, that there was some plan plan in place here, but completely caught me and sounded like everybody else off guard. I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily expected this, but I would have been maybe expecting something a little different, or just Violet to learn it, I guess. But Architect popped off on the Ana. He was handing out naps left and right. It was crazy. Just insane, the ability he had to just hit sleep darts and put him out from across the map. Insane that the play, I mean, mechanical skill, whatever. It's a very different animal to be playing Ana versus playing, Widowmaker, or even, they both have a sniper rifle. Very, very different. And he did a phenomenal job, and really stood out, I thought, as like one of the better support players on the weekend. Crazy when before this weekend, it never even crossed my mind that he might ever play support for any reason. So shout outs to him there. And that'll kind of wrap up our tournament talk section. But about the actual event itself on YouTube, I talked a lot about how are they going to promote it? How hard is it going to be to find it? Something I've never seen. And like I said, I do follow a couple channels that do live streams. I've never seen reminders in my like recommended videos on the main page
that you could set
for
up
live events to put a reminder there. So they were really doing what I asked, throwing it into my face from their main landing page. If I'm at all remotely interested, here you go, throw it in your face. Here you go. Which is exactly what they need to do. It's okay to be on the league to make people go to the page and subscribe, but once they're subscribed, it does feel like it's a little bit on the platform to notify people when they go live and get them ready, get them there. And I thought viewership backed it up. It was not really a decline. I thought a little bit of a boost for the opening weekend. I would have maybe wanted to see a little higher numbers if we'd stayed on Twitch, but considering there was a bump from kind of the season average last year, going into this weekend with the platform shift, and we don't really know the true numbers either, because it was streaming on the YouTube Play Overwatch, it was streaming on the YouTube Overwatch League, it was streaming in multiple languages, French and Korean. I don't know about any other ones. I think they cut a couple of the foreign language broadcasts as well, which a different conversation entirely. But so we got to wait to get combined views, and I don't know how reporting works. If I'm watching on my smart TV, do I show up as a viewer, so there could be other hidden viewers we're not knowing. I think the MLG stream had slightly better quality, especially early in day one, so I think a lot of people went over there as well, which affected the numbers too.
Is MLG stream still up?
It worked, and it had good it had good quality. So things were a little kind of iffy out of the gate, with more than just mid action ad rolls. It was just I think overall a solid, successful weekend, at least from a raw numbers output. You can have your own conversation about what it looks like, what it is, the issues they had. I guess my solution to that is bring the preseason back. The preseason is the preseason in sports, for the referees, the team players, the production. Everybody needs that preseason. Everybody, and not doing it feels like such a punt, especially with the issues they had that I think could have been solved by one official broadcast beforehand.
It's also for the fans to get just notified that it's happening, and B, just to get you ready. Hey.
A hype builder, for sure. Get
your hype built. Get your, I mean, it's so much that it's pretty self-explanatory. The only thing I had any sort of problem's not the right word, because I'm used to it and I understand it, accept it, is not even the frequency of ads that we saw, because like, I mean, breaks are breaks. I don't care if it's an ad or if it's just the same 3 ads over and over again for, the multiple hours that we're watching, right? And I mean, that's not Overwatch League specifically's fault. That's just that's just how ads are, is that there's only, they only buy space, that's just the nature of it. But it's like, okay, I saw the ad for the same 2 mobile games 800 times. I saw the Staple X Overwatch League ad and the Call of Duty League ad, and that was it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the ads were for properties that Blizzard owns. So if I had to guess, maybe they weren't given, they were aware of how likely maybe some issues were or whatever. Maybe they didn't try sell the ads for opening weekend too hard.
That seems like a mistake, if nothing else.
Well, but honestly, would it be if you're trying to play an ad for one company and a Cheese It Grooves ad roll pops down over the top of it and cuts it off? Like now you're paying advertisers back because you didn't deliver on what you promised.
That's true.
So I don't know the business side of it well enough. I definitely agree and felt some of that the fatigue. Chat's giving us the correct term, ad fatigue. I definitely felt some of that, and I think it's something that will just kind of fix itself in the long term, right? Because investors will become more confident in the viewership here, especially if things start to grow. It's just going to be easier, I think, to sell some of the ad space, and so I do think that'll fix itself over time. But as long as I'm not getting other, oh my God, Coke Gaming.
Oh my God.
How many?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So like, of all the things to complain about, leaving Twitch, it may have been better this weekend than it would have been on Twitch, to be perfectly honest, with what my Twitch experience has been recently.
Right.
With that.
I mean, again, that part is not an Overwatch League specific thing, because like if you watch Boomer TV, it's the same ads over and over again. So I'm yelling at the ad industry, I guess. I don't even mind ads. I want ads to be more targeted towards me. And like, for what it's worth, these ones are pretty, a mobile game. Okay. I mean, I've actually legitimately played one of those mobile games before. Mobile game was there. Call of Duty. I legitimately want the Toronto Ultra Call of Duty skin, even though I don't play Call of Duty. And I already bought Overwatch League gear. So like literally like check. Give me more of that, but I want a variety. Sure. Or I'm not going to get into it.
Toyota commercials with rotating casters. Some of those back, I think, would give us a good chunk of the familiar feel. But obviously,
just because
got to buy them again.
Right, I was going to say, just because we have Overwatch League talent in them doesn't mean that we can just run them again. And I know those huge companies are very, very particular about those sorts of things. So it's not going to be as easy as we want it to be. But even if you just, I don't know, I'm probably asking for things that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. It's just like, just cut up the commercial differently. Have the 60-second one. Have it. It's like, just shoot another commercial, forehead. I'm sure that's
would
just
probably
super
have
easy.
minimal returns, even because I think the same company would fatigue you as well, even just a different order.
Yeah, and I mean, is adding one extra commercial in that mix really going to make me say a different thing? No, we're watching for 12 hours over the course of 2 days. We're going to get fatigued no matter what. So maybe I'm complaining about nothing. But let's move on here and let's talk about Philly, because we got matches coming up this week in Philly. We kick it off with the Mayhem versus your boys in green, the Houston Outlaws.
Yeah, across the board, it's definitely a Philly themed weekend. So we're going to take a minute here to talk about the Philly team as a whole, what their roster is going to look like. They are the sole homestand for week 2 with the Shanghai event canceled. So keep that in mind. There are only the 4 games to be played. The Fusion are a team, we've talked about them a lot because they're easy to want to talk about in their current state, right? They've always been a contender, but last season was a bit of a letdown, obviously. Didn't make it into the postseason, lost in play-ins. Decided to do some rebuilding, so half the roster's new here, or at least replaced with talent from contenders, whether they're all subbed out, we'll find out soon enough. But looking at it, I don't think there's a whole lot of drama in who's going to be starting for this team. They brought Carpe and EQO back. I do expect these guys to just slot right back, especially after watching this weekend with how Striker and SBB and the old
Striker
names.
was a delight.
They were just
Striker
back. It was like
a delight to watch.
It was like they were clicking heads all season last year, and we just didn't get to watch it. And now they're back, and they haven't skipped a beat. So that's got me so sold on the Carpe EQO duo to just get right back to dominating as soon as they can here. So I'm really excited for that. Carpe is going to he's going to be featured on Tracer and McCree and Widowmaker again, Blevins. Oh my God. Dreams will be
winnable.
Very, very winnable. So it's when we look at the rest of the roster, and as far as what I'm going to be watching the most, I do think it's going to be Funny Astro and Alarm at the support line, even though Alarm's a budget boombox until he proves otherwise. And if you disagree, just at Kyle Wynn in Discord and tell him, since I only said that on ATP to troll Kyle. But Anna is, I think, the meta support hero, I think, for the flex support position based off of week 1. Yep. I don't know near as much about Alarm's Anna as is. I assume it's pretty good, right? And so is Jonex. But there's a drop off there. And there's a difference between getting that player on Zen versus Anna to me. What that difference is, I really couldn't tell you, obviously. With him getting most of his publicity on Zen, I think it's easy to view it as a fault. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and assume he's going to be pretty darn good at that as well. For all I know, he was doing it for the last year in contenders as well. But even that, Ghost was a lot of Zen. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to me to see how he slots in that role on that hero specifically. I have very little doubt what he can do on Zen. But we're going to need to see things like the synergy and communication really come into play for both of the new supports. And I think there's a lot of potential for errors and mistakes that can come from just those guys being new to the roster. Fury and Sato for the tank line is, to me, night and day difference. Fury's number 2 only to Choi Hyo-bin at the off-tank position for me. And he should do wonders to just elevate the play of the team, and Sato on the other side of the tank duo here. But Sato's, there's no secret if you've been listening, the man's just been a disappointment to me since he came in, benching our boy Fraggy, who we like so much, and just continue to be perplexed and confused about why he's here, why there's no backup for him. Like, listen, if you want to put your chips down on Death Blow's wrong about Sato and keep the guy on your roster, fine. But I think the stats do a little bit speak for themselves that there's at least room for improvement there. Right. And so to not have a backup to me is what's truly crazy. But essentially, this is it. Time's up, Sato. Like, if this roster doesn't do it with you tanking, it's never going to happen. So it's put up or shut up time. Don't kill your teammates is basically your job, right? There should be enough talent around you that you can just exist and do your bare minimum and succeed better than last year at least. So he's just got to not make the big mistake anymore. And that's really what we're going to be watching for from the tank line for me. Is he a liability still? Is all the confidence and trust they put in him well deserved and well placed? Or is he going to continue to kind of drag them down towards the middle where the rest of the roster says they don't have to be there? So this is a big weekend for Philadelphia. We're going to move right into the first match here, Philly versus Washington. Looking at Washington, they're a mid-table team, right, Blevins? Like, they're squarely, they popped off in stage 4.
Which is an improvement from last season, by the way.
Sure, they were awful for 3 stages, and then DPS came into play, and all of a sudden Corey and Stratus, and all right, everything's working a little bit better. Now they've got some changes coming in. Janice is gone. Blevins is happy about that, even though he's already off to New York.
It's a huge upgrade, I gotta say.
Wants him out of the league. Now, we did find out today that Lulsish didn't get his visa in time. Makes sense. They only signed him like a calendar year ago. Why would you have a visa for him by now? I guess that's a different conversation.
Yeah,
so
I doubt that that's the team's fault. That's probably all I know is that the visas are terrible to try to get.
Sure, Elevote is from the same country though, signed at the exact same time, and he got
so
that's all I know.
Someone has messed up something.
We're not going to speculate as to
down
why.
To blame the government.
We won't do any speculating as to why or how that happened, but nonetheless, Roar will be the main tank. I think Elevote's going to stay in the off-tank position, even though he's been Lulsish's companion for a million years or whatever. There's a new flex support. Aim God is here. He's going to be paired with Arc on support. And then, we know their DPS, Corey, Stratus. They're at least on the heroes that were popular in stage 4, very, very skilled DPS players. So the question really, Blevins, what do you think this team is? Are they closer to stage 1 to 3, or are they the stage 4 team we kind of ended the season on?
I think they're definitely closer to the stage 4 team than the stage 1 team. I think. So much has changed.
The stage 1 was so bad.
You're right. That was a like laughably and easily dead last team, I think. But they come in a bit stronger. We're in a meta that is DPS heavy, so we get to see, are Corey and Stratus the real deal, or was it a flash in the pan for just that meta? We're actually going to get to see that, which is kind of cool. Philly, on the other hand, is a known quantity, and that quantity with this meta and what we've seen with Carpe and EQO is better than even the peak of what Washington was at their stage 4. Literally grand finals caliber team when you actually get to play Carpe and he's not in Brig jail. Being able to see that is just, it's, as a Philly fan, this has got to be a really great feeling. You get your opening, your season opener is at home. You get your boys back with EQO and Carpe actually being unlocked. Maybe there's some Sato truthers. If you're a Philadelphia fan, you might as well be one, right? I think Washington is going to be a market improvement from the beginning of the season, and maybe even can continue some success. And again, that continuing of success and major improvement is exactly a mid-table team. Like, that is a market improvement from last season. Philly, on the other hand, was at their worst last season and was still a mid-table team. I think they're better than that now. I don't think I'm seeing. I'm not picking Washington to win this, especially not at home against Philly, especially not against the unlocked Philly with Carpe. I do think it'll be a close one, but I don't think I can give it a 3-2, maybe a 3-1 for Philly. I kind of want to pick a 3-0 though for Philly.
Yeah, I'm going to preface my picks with the sentiment that you just went at this one with. These 4 teams that play this weekend are my widest range of outcomes teams, right? Like, these are the teams that could dominate, be at the top of the leaderboard. All 4 of them, I really believe it's within the range of outcomes, and all 4 of them are top 3. I also think all 4 of them have it in them to be bottom 3.
Many of them have been.
Right, and there's no exception to this. Philly included, Houston included, and certainly not Washington and Florida, who demonstrated both sides of that coin just last year. So I think everybody's there on them. So I think they're all kind of similar, but I'm with you. This meta speaks to me directly to Carpe, and I think that just is the difference maker. I feel confident. I've seen enough of Corey's snipers to feel confident that the man can probably pick up McCree. I think for generally speaking, if you can handle Widowmaker, you can handle McCree, and vice versa. One might be better than the other, sure, but you can at least be adequate, good, do what you need him to do. I've not seen him play enough Tracer to just be confident that he can stand up to somebody like Carpe, who we've seen absolutely demolish entire teams and fights. And
there's
maps.
5 people in the world who can?
3 or 4 people that can. And until you see somebody elevate to join that level, I think you have to kind of give the edge here to Carpe. When you factor in the missing pieces and how crucial the missing pieces are, main or the changed pieces for Washington, main tank, the flex support, and those 2 alone are number 1 and number 2 in importance and difficulty. So when you're changing both of those pieces, I expect a slow start. Not that it's a problem, not that it was wrong to do it. I love that they did it. I think gives them their best chance overall, but maybe not to get the win this week.
Right.
They might have had a better chance if they just kept sleepy, but they're not trying to win week 2, match 1 or whatever. They're trying to win the season. Philly will be closer to their fully evolved form this week. With less pieces and higher skill pieces that were added. And I'll give them the 3-1 win here as well.
Yeah, it's just, especially, we did see Dallas go 0-2 at their homestand in a crowd that was very on board with them. So we were never saying that the crowd is going to automatically win you the game, but it certainly does help. We saw even against San Francisco, Dallas had some moments where you could tell the crowd was really working for them, but there's a lot of factors that are leading me to believe Philly's in favor here. Okay, match number 2 for Philadelphia is going to be on Sunday, and that's going to be against the newly colored Florida Mayhem.
Yeah, and as I said, this is another stage 4 hype beast from last year. Philly gets basically both of them. You can, in my mind, you can like freely interchange the two teams and most of the talking points about them. So it's kind of funny to me that Philly gets them both straight out of the gate. But looking at the roster, I mean, to me, it starts with Sia Player, as it always does, as it has, but literally before they signed him in season 1 to bring him on. I was talking about the man and how good he is. He's going to do exactly what Stryker did and what Architect did and what all the other guys did. Okay, he's going to come in and you're going to go, oh, that's right. Like he's just nuts, had everything. Like if it's just in the hit scan roll, the man's going to pop at it. That's what we've seen from him. And like I said last week, I'm buying into the narrative that nobody skipped a beat, nobody dropped off, because that's what I want to believe it. So it's got to be true, right? His DPS partner is, I believe, Yaki or BQB. I think that's a bit of a toss. I mean, BQB looked good. I think his hero pool is a little small. It's hard to remember. It was easy to start to tune out Florida Mayhem games at the end of last year. So my apologies. I mean, they made that run stage 4, brought us back a little bit, but
I mean, did they though?
Yeah, I mean, they would have been stage playoffs, I think, right? Them and Washington both had they happened. That's why they're really like parallels. Like they both clicked at the same time, turned around. A big part of the click and the turnaround for Florida was Gargoyle in the off tank position. He was very, very impressive in stage 4. I don't have stats prepared for it, but I remember looking at them and thinking they stood up very, very well to kind of back up what the eyeball test showed me in that stage. I think he's going to continue to exceed expectations this season alongside Fate at the main tank position. In support, we're going to have Gangnam Jin, who's the contenders call-up from Runaway, alongside Chris. And I think in order for Florida to be a legitimately dangerous contending team, it's going to have to be the off-tank and the flex support that do it. Gargoyle, Gangnam Jin, they have to, in Gargoyle's case, keep it up, keep doing what you're doing, keep impressing now on the more steadfast mainstay off-tank heroes that we might have expected instead of like Roadhog, like it was last year. And then Gangnam Jin, he's the flex support for Runaway, came in with a pretty high amount of hype here. And just really, I think only Myungbong and Alarm at that position were right up there with him as far as hype goes. I'm trying to think if there's any others, not that immediately jumped to mind anyways. So definitely one of the ones that I think was talked about as being a really potentially high impact signing. So those will be the keys here for Florida.
Yeah.
And Blevins, I've not once yet gone out on a limb, predicted an upset.
There's no way.
It's not happened yet in 2020.
There's no way he's doing it.
Let's go ahead and change that. Give me the 3-2 win here for the Florida Mayhem.
Wow.
Philly's overhyped. Florida's underrated.
Wow.
Whether I believe that what I just said is true, that Philly's overhyped and Florida's underrated, whether it's true enough to make me right in this prediction or not, obviously we're going to have to see. But if you're asking me to bet for Sato or against Sato, I know what way I want my money to be every single time. So until he punishes me for it, I'm betting against the man. Give me here, Florida, 3-2 in the upset.
Did I read the script wrong? Are we flipping roles this season? Are you the one that's picking Florida?
That's why I didn't throw to you to do the prediction, so you couldn't jump in and steal it. I just... I grabbed the mic. I wouldn't stop. What is it? I filibustered you straight into stealing your Florida Mayhem hype. It's 2020. It's the year of the hype thief.
Hey, I'm not picking Florida in this match. There's one thing to pick.
That right there is now I'm confident.
Now you're right. It's one thing to pick against Sato. It's another thing to also be picking against Carpe, and one does not simply do that. At least
a player does.
We'll see. Stay tuned. The hour of reckoning is coming. Man, we can't. Are we going to go a single episode without referencing Papa John. I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's a lot of parallels between the Florida Mayhem team and the Washington Justice team, and I think for the same reasons, I'm going to be picking Philly here. I think that until we see the Carpe EQO show not show up in the way that they once have, I'm not going to pick them to crumble in this meta. Not yet, at least. I mean, if we see Florida, or sorry, if we see Philly lose their first game, all of a sudden this Florida pick looks a lot better. But it's entirely possible we see. I mean, you were 100% right at the beginning, where it's like the range of outcomes on all of these matches is very, very disparate, because I could easily see Philly just raffle stomping 3-0ing both of these teams. I could also see them coming out 0-2 on this week. It certainly could happen. I'm picking them to go the 2-0 here. I'm going to go with a 3. I'll go with a 3-1 here for Philly. It's a safe pick. I do think, the 3-2 Florida pick is not unreasonable, unlike every single time I've ever picked Florida, which has been unreasonable. But with the again, give me that home team advantage. Give me that Carpe. Give me the EQO. And let's just hope Sato doesn't actively throw, and I think we're going to be good for Philly.
Saya player is going to have Philly fans booing their own team by map 2.
I mean, I hope for it. I just want nothing but chaos in these games.
Great. It would be so great.
Also, since I mentioned it about LA Valiant, I'll also bring it out here about Florida. I mean, we talked about this before, but just like a windmill slam upgrade in terms of the color scheme for Florida.
That's your crunch of the week.
Wait. I deleted my button by accident.
We got there, guys. We got there.
I'm not going to re-record one.
Crunch time.
I literally pressed what I thought was the button, but it was actually the delete button, and then it's gone now. That's sad. And I'm not going to re-record it in shame. You guys know what I've been
going through for like 4 years as his co-host. This is my life.
I'm not going to re-record it because I'm ashamed. Speaking of ashamed, let's go and talk about Houston Outlaws versus Florida Mayhem.
Give me one game. Give me one game before I have to be ashamed.
Okay, fine. We'll give you this game. You don't need to be.
Fast.
Yeah.
We'll get there fast.
I mean, this is your. I mean, you literally just picked the Florida Mayhem to beat the Philadelphia Fusion, and now we're playing against your Houston Outlaws. What's your take on this match, Death?
Well, they're playing Florida first. Right, so Florida will be desperate after being decimated by Houston. No, in all seriousness. I mean, what else can I say? I alluded to it earlier. Season debuts for Houston don't historically go well, and that's okay as long as the middle and the end of the seasons go better. So that's what we're aiming at. That's what we're focusing on, is the middle and the end of the season.
Right. Yeah. How you
they tend to have these lofty ideas about what their players' hero pools are and how much they can ask of their roster. You can call it experimentation, coaching, just testing things, where the eyeball tests, whatever, it all amounts to the same thing, and that's been first match losses every single time. I'm almost expecting it, to be perfectly honest with you. When you look at what they've added, the Swiss Army knives of blase and hydration, you've got obviously Dante, who, how do you take him out? You've got Linkser, and we're in a McCree meta with a side of Widowmaker, like that feels made for the man. But are they really going to not? I mean, it's them, right? Like it's Houston. I have to think they're going to do some tinkering, some trying to figure it out. And I talked about it with New York last season. This is the time you want them to do it. So it's not even like me as a fan complaining, saying, "Oh, I wish they wouldn't do this." It's now's the time to do it. It's the right time. So let's see it. Let's see what you've got, how they work together on the stage in the moment, and go from there and adapt from there. So I think, given everything I said about Florida, what their upsides are, everything that's going on, I think it's going to be a really, really close match here. As obviously, I think the Florida Philly match will be. I don't have any of these as really massive blowouts by any respect. Looking at Houston, how much Anna was played, guys. I've said it a couple times in the offseason. Raucus is probably going to be in the starting lineup. I'm going to preemptively support that decision. You can just go watch the Overwatch World Cup footage to see how good he is at Anna and how a team can win with him if you've got talent around him. So I don't think he's going to be a liability there. And obviously Zen would be probably more Repel's job. So we'll have to see exactly what their take on the meta is to know exactly what they're going to do, because they are one of the teams that probably wants to mix and match more than the rest, right? Just judging off narrow hero pools on some of the players, things like that. So specifically the newcomers I'm watching, I mean, some really big Meko bombs would be great if for no other reason than it would just fill Blevitz's beard with tears as they ran down his face.
I'm a hot bub main now.
Hot bombs. Yeah, so I want to see that, and I want to see a visible impact of Jexay and the new shot calling structure, assuming it is Jexay. I want to see fast decision making. I don't want to see them standing around setting up for fights for 30 seconds, wasting time and going in. I want to see quick, decisive actions. I almost want to see that more than I want to see the fights be won, to be perfectly honest with you, because I don't think if you're sitting back, we saw it a couple times. I'm blanking on who it was. It was like literally, it was Toronto. Toronto was driving me nuts, standing there waiting to engage, and it worked for them. They got the job done, but long term, you do that, it's going to catch up with you. It's going to mean lost maps, whatever. So I want to see that decisiveness, that good shot calling come into play here. I'm going to go 3-2 Florida, unless Houston just lets Linkser farm headshots on McCree for 4 maps. I think they would need that to stand up to Saya player, at least without knowing what the other guys are, how they're going to use them, what heroes they're going to play. To me, when I try to visualize it, that's what needs to happen, right? And it works out well, because Dante was a pretty good May, and assuming that job didn't go to hydration or blase, which it very well might have. And then I think it just works out well for them, because then he can also go to the Tracer if it's needed, since Linkser can't really do that. It just feels like a good DPS duo for this meta right now.
Right.
But like I said, they're probably going to experiment, do a little bit. So yeah, I'll go Florida 3-2, but super close.
So you're saying that a team this week at the Philly homestand is going to go 2-0.
And it's not the Philly Fusion.
And not only is it not the Philly Fusion, it is the Florida Mayhem.
Sure.
That's a bold claim here.
It's 2020, bro.
It is. Man, it is a bold claim when you are the one picking Florida and I'm the one picking Houston here. Again, I think because you follow them so closely and they hit home for you so much, I think you're maybe playing a little bit of the, I'm just ready for them to lose, so when they do, I predicted it game. I'm not buying it. I see right through it. Give me Houston. I'll give you the flip 3-2, because I do think, despite my confidence in Philly right now with this meta, I've also got some confidence in Florida and as well Houston. I mean, again, we are seeing McCree and Widowmaker, and you have Linkser. Did you forget about him, Death? Did you forget about Linkser?
Put this match in 2 weeks and find out who I pick. I'll tell you that right now.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, barring nothing crazy happens in the first,
sure,
to swing the value of the teams, but I just want to point out, Discord, I can't win for losing, right? Like, it's not possible. Because if I say Houston's going to win, you guys jump down my throat and I'm a homer and blah, blah, blah. I mean, maybe not because it's Florida, but you get my point. And then if I say they might lose a nail-biter versus a very closely ranked team, you're
a homer. You're protecting yourself.
I'm just stacking the deck. It's not physically possible for me to make an unbiased evaluation or opinion of the team. Even though
you get it.
I don't think I've ever once been like wildly incorrect about where I've placed Houston ever.
I mean, have you ever picked them to beat New York Excelsior?
I may have been wrong in single games. They may have been blown out, but I mean,
also,
like,
I don't think that you have. I don't know that you ever have. So
I did pick them to beat New York, and it was literally like the opening match of Overwatch League was like our teams playing against each other.
That's right.
And how was I possibly going to stand up?
Also, that was one of the scarier games.
It was. But that one just had to be me and you standing on our soapbox and screaming at each other as loud as humanly possible. The league stacked it that way for us. We didn't have a choice.
Yes, that was the homage. They'll never admit it, but that was the homage to High Noon Podcast. Official.
That and the replays coming out. right
Yeah,
now.
during the episode. Thanks again, Mole. Thanks again, Overwatch League moles listening to the live stream over at twitch.tv/Shiny Podcast. Yeah, give me Houston 3-2. Maybe I'm trying to jinx them. Maybe I want Meko to. Maybe I don't want him to get injured but I want his diva to get injured. Like I want the character in game to be injured.
So he just can't remech. He's just stuck in baby
Just
form.
like
And
takes
then
a,
we wish we still
just
had
like
Cool
is
Matt.
is
If he's
sluggish.
stuck in baby diva,
Just
nobody's
sluggish.
a better baby diva than Cool Matt.
Who's better? Cool Matt and Baby Diva or oh god,
Cool
what?
Matt and baby diva.
No,
Doesn't matter.
no, not in Baby Diva. Battle Mercy. Neptuno. No, not Neptuno. Is it Neptuno? Why am I forgetting the name?
Yeah, no, you're right. That's Neptuno.
Is it Battle Mercy or Baby Diva for Cool Matt? Neptuno's Battle Mercy or Baby Diva Cool Matt? Who's better?
This reminds me of how I ended every WoW GM ticket that I ever, like a WoW help ticket I ever opened with the Game Masters there. And it was, what happens when an immovable object strikes, or when an irresistible force strikes an immovable object? I got a lot of answers. I'll just repeat them back to you. The unstoppable force scores a glancing blow and continues on in a new direction. Chuck Norris dies. The world ends. These are just WoW GM responses, not even mine. So yeah, those are the three that stand out to me. It was
Gotcha.
just
So
the end of the world.
Some sort of not physiological, some sort of breaking in the space-time continuum. Got it. Okay. Speaking of breaking in the space-time continuum, we have one last game, and Deathblow, can you pick Houston to lose again as they play against the Washington Justice in their second match of the weekend?
Well, I mean, they usually get it together a little. I mean, at least for what's correct to run, right? So I feel a little more confident they're going to run something optimal. And this is another one it's going to be super close. Like I think all the games this weekend have like serious map 5 potential or upset potential. I can't stress that enough. I am going to go Houston here 3-1. It comes down to just like knowing how they can possibly use the pieces of their roster, right? Like it just not knowing everything that the Washington players can really do and at what level they can play them at, even if, you know, looking at Houston's roster, and you don't have to sit there and wonder about like with a bad Tracer, but like there's some security in that, right? Like going, oh, well, I know it's going to be this person on Tracer. I know generally how he's going to perform versus I've never seen Corey do that. Can I? So I feel a little safer just betting on Houston in this one. I'll call it a 3-1, but again, it's like a super close 3-1. It's not going to be a blowout by any means. And there's a little bit of an assumption being made that Corey's even as good on the McCree as he is on the Widowmakers. Just again, haven't seen it. And even if he can pop off and do it in ranked or on stream, that's very different than doing it with another Overwatch League caliber hit scan on the opposite side of you all the time. So you got to put your faith a little bit in the coach on this one and just trust in Harsha. So I don't know. They could be 2-0 at the end of this weekend, 0-2 at the end of this weekend. I won't even be remotely surprised. I will pick Houston here with a 3-1 win.
Yeah,
I can't predict them to go 0-2. That's crazy.
that's just jinxing it. Yeah, I'm going to go with Houston.
Should I?
Yes, you should. I'm going with a Houston 3-1 as well. Again, I maybe am counting Linkser as more of a known quantity here, especially in this meta. I fully agree with you that they have the ability to sort of mess up and test out, but I just don't see it for Washington until we do see it. Corey needs to show it to me before before I'm really putting a lot of weight into that. Again, this season is different even from the end of last season. Very different meta, very different. Just everything is very different here. So I'm gonna go Houston 3-1, and I mean, again, I think this is one of the wider range of outcomes that we have for weekends. I mean, comparing this to last weekend, where I think our predictions were off. I think we probably picked Dallas over Valiant, but
I think I missed one. And that one was no, I
you
missed
got
2 because
everything.
I picked Dallas over Valiant, and then I also picked. Did I pick? I don't remember if I picked Paris over London. I know I felt very confident in picking Paris, but I don't change it, so I didn't even like log into the website to see whatever I say on the air
Right.
is what I'm putting into our pick'ems contest
Right.
because it just feels like I can't win prizes anyways.
Right.
So it feels like the right thing to do to let you guys
Right.
play against my picks I make on the air. But
Yeah.
yeah, to me, I mean that was Paris's advantage going into that game. Yeah, we did pretty well. It felt very solved.
It did, and the Valiant over the Fuel was definitely the biggest one, and I picked the flip of London over Vancouver, which was surprisingly close. Not gonna lie, I was actually really. I picked Gladiators over Vancouver.
Oh, Gladiators! I thought you
what
said
did I
London.
say?
I thought you said London. Maybe you did.
Maybe I did. I don't know. I had Gladiators.
Yeah,
over
that was
Vancouver.
super close.
Yeah, it was a super close
match of the week. If you want one to go back and watch and
Yeah.
you missed it, that's the one for sure.
It would have been really weird if I picked London over Vancouver because they didn't play.
I didn't think so, and then but like that wasn't even the weirdest thing to me, right? Like it was more likely that London would have beat Vancouver in a week they didn't play than a week where they did play.
They had a much higher chance, I'm sure, because that didn't actually happen. And yeah, not going to think about it. But that is going to bring us to the end of this week. Again, short week because of the canceled or rescheduled or postponed, whatever you want to call it, China. I believe it was Shanghai homestand again.
Yeah, Shanghai.
Sucks, but we talked about it ad nauseum in the other episodes, and hopefully we'll in the near future have an idea of what they're going to be doing to get those games in.
Unless you're going to be up between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday mornings, you weren't going to watch those live anyways. So it's still a good idea of what the live viewing experience would be for you this weekend.
Right.
Given the circumstances, the difference is there won't be 4 matches of VODs for you to watch after or before or whatever.
Right.
That's what you would have normally had is those hours in the morning, ungodly hours filled with matches that you would have watched on YouTube later. We'll get to that later on, but almost in a way going to kind of ease us into the season a little.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, before we wrap up, the clip of week 1 in terms of like, here's how the matches are playing out. Here's 2 days of matches. It felt pretty good. The
only thing that to me was really any different was on day 2, there was a big gap in between the games because the New York games ended very quickly in like 3-0s or 3, just very fast paced. Yeah. But the desk filled some time. You got some more FaceTime for the analysts. And there's a bit of a longer, timer period as well, but nothing crazy, nothing too disjointed. Yeah, it was a pretty smooth experience once the first match was done and the ad situation calmed down.
Yeah, and there was some technical blips. Obviously, we've been spamming crunch time all episode for a reason that you guys probably saw. And there's all sorts of little things, but honestly, at a macro level, like casters were good. I really liked Jaws and Hex. I thought that was a great combo. ZP is always great. I'm going to withhold judgment on Jake for now. Not my favorite right now, but I think that's just because I'm not used to him, and he's a very different style of caster than I think we're accustomed to, which
he wants to be more analytical.
Yes.
He was talking about on Twitter.
Yeah, which is, it's just different, and I'm not used to it. So not my favorite right now, but
to be honest, even the returning old hats had some struggles and some issues. I thought special shout outs to Brennan Sideshow, who I was almost of the duos, almost the most worried about them. Not that they couldn't do it or hadn't in the past, but they just became such characters and such goofballs. And you knew in order to cast, they were going to have to rein it in a little bit on the broadcast. But honestly, crazy to say about these two. What professionals they were, though, to step in.
Yes.
And I'm floored that I'm saying it out loud because they're such goofballs, and I love them for it. And it's not a slam. But the fact that they were able to just light switch, flip it off, so good at the height moments, the everything.
My word!
They did a really, really good job. And I got to say, of all the pairings, they were maybe the ones I was just the most worried about, because it felt like you were losing something, even though they weren't going anywhere. Like, oh, I'm losing their antics on the desk. I want them around more, stuff like that. And they filled in, stepped in, did a phenomenal job. All of them.
And Reinforced Custa has still got some antics behind it. Like the desk,
they're definitely goofballs.
The desk, honestly, I thought it tied the whole broadcast as a whole together really well.
Everybody was in a really tough spot with the Cheez-It meme and stuff going on too. So the fact that the desk picked it up and embraced it and made it their own was great. Didn't have much choice in that, but
you might as well, because you're gonna get bamboozled if you don't.
But you can do it and make it worse, and they didn't. I think they did it. They picked it up, they made it their meme, and they diffused it a little bit. So it was a very good job there. And just overall, other than the obvious, the memes, the jokes, production's different than talent, as I guess what we're really getting at here.
Yes.
So A+ is all around for the talent. Production, that was your preseason. No,
right.
I didn't notice anything I didn't notice much day 2.
Right.
But it's got to get better.
Improved.
It's got to get better fast.
Yeah, it definitely improved. So overall, I mean, one way or the other, we've got 1 week into season 3 in the books. I thought it was a great opening week. I think a lot of the sort of the naysayers or the doomsayers maybe quiet up a little bit here. There was some stuff floating around on Twitter that we won't get into that I have opinions on, but we're out of time and it's not that important anyway.
Quick, what's doomsayer play when you play it?
Oh man, I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I'm trying to look it up.
I think it's the end is coming or something like that.
Oh, that really could be it.
It might be. I honestly, haven't played Hearthstone in a very long time, and
you nailed it. You nailed it.
Yes,
you nailed it. I got there.
And B, haven't played that card in even longer. So, still got it. By the way,
what about when he dies?
Oh, it's something
you could apply to the fact that you got the first one right.
It was it's something about him being right. Like I knew it. Yes, I knew it. Yes, so got there. Also, by the way, Legends of Runeterra has even better voice lines than Hearthstone. Yeah, week 1's in the books, and we don't need to talk about other games randomly at the end of the show. That's gonna be it, everyone. Let us know what you thought about week 1, because we're super hyped about it. It's just a breath of fresh air to finally be able to be back to be back home, as they said in the broadcasts. We're back home. Overwatch League is here, and we're going to be moving around the country and the world. So let us know what you thought. Make sure you check out everything. We're High Noon Podcast everywhere, at High Noon Podcast on Twitter, patreon.com/High Noon Podcast, twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast, and all that good stuff. Deathblow, anything before we go here? It's crunch time, baby, and we'll be back for some more crunch time next week. But for Deathblow, I'm the Blevins, and remember, it's High Noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. Threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now guides my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Crunch time.